Coach, last week marked the first time that Braylon Addison, Darren Carrington, and Devin Allen ever played together in the same game, which is kind of odd considering they're three of the most productive guys you've had the last couple of years. Byron Marshall's out this year, the rest of the year probably. How hard has it been to gain some type of continuity amongst the receivers despite all the great talent you have there?
It's interesting. I've never even realized what you just said, but that is true. I appreciate that. This is kind of just the reality of modern football, whether it's injuries or whatever, having to plug and play and still play at an extremely high level, whether that's up front, which that took place last week, or as you said, the chemistry of throwing and catching. And we did a lot better kind of in the improvised situations where those guys made plays out of the system, so to speak, than we did on some stuff, whether it was in the red zone or some designed, whatever, run down 12 yards and turn around at a certain angle type stuff. We need to get better at. And so that kind of speaks to their ability to make plays and then still just kind of harnessing back everything within the system. But yeah, that's something that you're always just working, and whether it's making sure everybody works with everybody in fall camp or however guys come in to make that as normal as possible when you're next to somebody that you haven't done it in a game with.
The rapid pace of the reps in practice make it easier for guys not even focus on who's next to them.
That's part of the theory, yeah, of getting guys in there. So you and I are next to each other. We have total confidence wherever we play, we've done it, and yeah, you're kind of oblivious to who it is, but you still have confidence in them, and you're not really keeping track of that in your mind.
Back prim in the back.
You guys have talked about how Braylon can do a lot of things for you offensively, whether it be at Wildcat or running back or receiver. With Darren Carrington now in the lineup at receiver, does that kind of allow you to get creative where you put Braylon within the offense?
Maybe. I mean, yes and no. You're still developing. We've got some guys that are still kind of working their way, whether it's Darren or Devin or all these other guys that are kind of working their way into maybe a different percentage of game snaps. And so then that just kind of depends from there. But weekly, there's guys with nicks and dings that whether it's a backup tailback that you're taking some of those, reps away from, or a different position where you have to kind of just slide that scale of whether it's planning to get a ball to a guy in this scenario or whatever, and you have to have a backup for that. You have to have a backup for that position and a backup for your backup plan, and all those things are related.
Preston Highfield on the left.
What's the biggest difference that you've noticed in your team in the days leading up to kickoff before the Washington game, and then the days leading up to kickoff before this Arizona State game?
So the biggest difference in leading up to, I like how we've worked. I think our guys have worked hard. I think we're working smarter, we're working more efficiently. They had a really good day today just as far as confidence of communication, which is a huge deal against these guys in every phase. They blitz from everywhere, and we have to communicate the look, and identify the look first, communicate it, and then execute our job. Defensively, they present a lot of issues with not only their personnel, but how they move them around, the shifting, the motion, all that kind of stuff. So I think just the overall confidence of communication is improving, and that again is guys doing their job more and more next to the same guy, and doing it with confidence.
Kristen Rogers on the right.
On Sunday, I asked Royce Freeman about the blitz-heavy offense from Arizona State. He laughed, saying that the phrase blitz-heavy was funny, and then I asked the same thing to Scott Frost, and he laughed because he says that really is an understatement. One, why is that so funny to you guys? Is it just that big of an understatement that saying they're blitz heavy is an understatement?
Probably, I would imagine. Yeah, that's their reaction to whatever compared to certainly to the teams we've played. They're much much higher percentage than is typical, and that's their deal, right? They want to get you behind in second and long, and then play with those looks and play coverage out of it if they kind of get ahead. And so you have to be ready for 4 guys off every side, 4 guys in the A gap, 4 guys off the bus, 4 guys from everywhere. They're bringing it, and again, it's kind of one of those deals. You have to be aggressive and patient simultaneously, because they're gonna hit us 5 yards deep in the backfield. That's going to happen. But the next play, we have to be aggressive. We have to trust it. The next drive, we have to be aggressive and trust it. That was Dave, and go from there.
Ryan Thorburn.
Mark, it seems like the guys on your roster from Arizona are either starters or key contributors. How much of a hand do you have in recruiting that state, having been at Arizona State before, and how important is Arizona for you guys?
Arizona's a great state to recruit. I think it's a little over-recruited because guys used to go down there and want to play golf and do whatever in the spring, but it's good football, a lot of really good coaches, a lot of good programs. Obviously, the population is significant, and we love going down there. The guys, whether it's Tyler Johnstone, Devin, anybody named Jalen Jelks, Jalen Brown, who else am I going to forget? Kenai. All those guys are certainly excited to go home. Yeah, having spent 5 years there, there are a ton of guys that are still coaching in Arizona that we have great relationships with, and we plan on using this to recruit a little bit too.
Lindsay Snell, did you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, and it's Schnell.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
As you guys lost a couple games, there were some outsiders who were thinking that the sky was falling in Eugene. And I know that as coaches, you say you ignore the media and ignore outsiders, but your kids are on social media. They hear all this. They're on campus. How did you make sure in the aftermath of the Utah loss that guys were not completely demoralized in the locker room with their confidence?
Sure. We don't ignore the media. We pay great attention to the media. I think it's a fine line. Number one, the first thing is you be honest. And you be honest about solutions. You be honest about exactly what happened. Try to find out why it happened. Sometimes that's a little bit harder to harness, the answer to immediately of why a guy does something uncharacteristic or something that we've never taught or done before. Those things are hard to understand sometimes. And then you move forward. But just like, last year when we were the greatest team ever in the history of football, which wasn't true, we're not the worst team ever in the history of football this year. And so just constantly pursuing better, constantly working together is kind of two of the things that we talk about all the time in various ways. I think that is kind of easier said than done, but our guys have worked hard and our best football is still ahead of us. We're improving. As long as we're all in that same kind of vein, that's all we can do.
Vernon said that he actually likes that people have these wild expectations as Duck fans, that he thinks it's appealing. He likes to go somewhere where the standard is high. Do you feel that or acknowledge that, or do you just wish people would mind their own business?
No, absolutely. We are at a place where there's some percentage, whatever that is, that if you lose a game, whatever, it's fire me, drop football, whatever that extreme kind of reaction is, that there's a percentage like that. There's some percentage like that everywhere. But we're also a place where you can win it all. You can do things the right way. You can do all the things that we do in the classroom, in the community, all the positive things that we do that are awesome, that nobody talks about. And so, absolutely, you'd much rather, as a competitor, as a high-level competitor, you'd much rather be at a place where, people care a lot than they don't.
Yesterday, Frost was saying that he never wants to go too fast on offense and have it not work and then put the defense back out there again if they've been out there already quite a bit in a game. Do you take that into account with how selectively you use tempo in a season like this, how the defense has been doing?
That's one of those things where you're constantly going back and forth, but you can't think that way. And, you know, Frosty and I always talk about these kind of things too, of you can't operate going, what if this doesn't work? From his standpoint, you know, that's something where, we'll either you know, do something a little bit differently, whether it's a series of plays that we're checking, you know, seeing what the defense is doing and trying to you know, get in the best situation, or play with emotion, or play, you know, something that just might take a little bit more time. But we also have to put our foot on the gas and do what we do. And it's always, you know, working that fine line of trying to be in the perfect play versus just going and seeing if that's good enough.
This is a two-parter. Where does DJ Foster kind of stack up against the, I guess, playmakers in the Pac-12, and then seeing as what he can do in the run game and the passing game with Byron that's shown here, Christian McCaffrey? Is that kind of the new wave of football? Yeah, definitely. I think he appears to be exactly what you just said, that guy that can play a bunch of different positions. He has to be smart. He has to be tough. And those guys are hard to defend. And that, whether it's being able to line up in you know, a conventional whatever, 2-back, 1 tight end look and pound the ball and be really good at that, or line up in empty and be a route runner and be really good at that. He is very, very good. I think, you know, it sounds like they're going to get the big guy back at tailback as well, DeMario. And so, you know, it's just another element that you have to be prepared for.
Any other questions? Justin?
Back to talking about the wide receivers with obviously Carrington back and Devin Allen getting up to full speed, but specifically to Braylon Addison, is he the type of guy where, as far as the approach, you're trying to, on certain drives, get him the ball specifically? Do you design the offense in a specific way like that?
Sure. I mean, obviously, you want to get the ball in your playmaker's hands, and he is a dynamic playmaker, whether it's in the return game or as a receiver, you know, running reverse, whatever that is. And so you're going to try to get the ball in those guys' hands, whether that's Royce or Darren or Vernon or whoever. And then you just have to have a backup plan. You know, he's a guy that has played a ton in special teams. He played a lot offensively. We have to keep him fresh. We have total confidence in a guy like Kirk Merritt that is really getting better and better and better. You can see him growing up just before our eyes. And so, again, it's that balance. But absolutely, we want the ball in our best guys' hands.
Lindsay, did you have anything else to add?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Dave.
Anything else?
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I guess.